There is nothing wrong with your internet. Do not attempt to adjust your settings. We are controlling the podcast. We control the squealing and the screams. We can make your heart flutter, your eyes blur from tears, or sharpen your mind to crystal clarity. For the next hour, sit back. We are in control of what you hear. We repeat, there is nothing wrong with your settings. You are about to experience the awe and mystery known as the female mind. You are now entering the Fangirl Zone.
Welcome to Falling Pieces. I'm Terry.
A podcast dedicated to the NBC series Debris. I'm Sean Fangirl S.
Exclusively on the Fangirl Zone, I'm Steve.
And this is your trio of terror here, ready to rock your world podcast-wise. And we thought we would introduce ourselves and let you know why we're here. I'm Terry, and I've been in podcasting for now 11 years as of this year. And I've done various podcasts talking about Doctor Who and Orphan Black, and now talking about in Fringe as well, which JH was involved with before. And now I'm talking about a new project of his, Debris, with Falling Pieces. So that's me.
I'm Sean Fangirl S. I've been doing podcasting for 9 years this year.
Woohoo!
Yes. After having a huge, awesome fangirl moment at one of the local cons, got me into this, and I'm super excited because one person who happens to be in our pilot episode has spanned across several of the shows that we've talked about on both Fangirl Zone and our previous life in podcasting, which you might find it on From the Vault soon.
Yeah, and I'm Steve, and Fringe was what got me into podcasting, even though I listened to it first before I got my feet wet in the water. But I've been podcasting with Sean for at least 7-8 years now, even though not all of it was on the Fangirl Zone, but 90% of it was. And I am so glad to have JH back in control of a series again.
Yes.
You know, guys, I do have to say, this is kind of perfect timing for this to come out. And I say that because I'm fingers and toes crossed that all our conventions are coming back, because it'd be really great to have him and the show at one of the conventions, because
Absolutely.
That's where I got to see some of the stuff before. And, you know, I'm like, yes, they always show the coolest stuff. So that's what I'm hoping for again.
You scared me. I thought you were going to say it's perfect timing because stuff was falling out of the sky right now.
I'm not going to Chicken Little it just yet. You know, a lot of us have a lot of snow on our roofs, and we are worried personally about our roofs coming crashing in. So I don't want to Chicken Little anything.
Good idea. Good idea. So the reason we're here is basically we're kind of moving from, not moving on from, but moving from JJ to JH. We're swapping one whole letter, and we're talking about Debris, which is a new NBC show that focuses on FBI agent Brian Venti, played by Jonathan Tucker, well known across many shows and films, and MI6 agent Finola Jones, played by Ryan Steele, also known across many genres. And they're joining forces in a secretive international agency called Orbital. It's a good name, which investigates alien debris falling to Earth and what it does. So today we are recapping Season 1, Episode 1, Pilot. Why are all the pilots called Pilot? We got to look into that. And with that, let's go through the pieces.
Can I just say, it would be great if the second episode was then called Co-Pilot, just to mess with all of us.
And then the third one is Passenger.
Something. I just want... I mean, we get enough, like, trolling on, like, recaps usually, but now I want them to totally troll us with episode titles.
Episode 4.
Somebody make that happen.
Episode 4 is Flight Attendant.
Snack service.
Mechanic,
Yeah.
control
I
tower.
wonder how many
Yeah.
people would be so mad.
Yeah, really.
Oh, let's start with a group of troublemakers. We have three guys. First, we see a seller who is the person that I happen to be talking about, Michael Eklund, who has been across several of the shows that I podcast about, that Steve and I have podcasted about, and it's amazing. And I'm so distraught that it seems, and I say seems because I think we all know nothing is ever final in these kind of shows.
True.
But it seems like he may not have made it.
No.
Yeah.
Michael Eklund's character basically is selling items of a certain type, and no, not drugs, thankfully, but it seems to be just as wanted as some drugs.
Yeah.
It's little pieces of debris and special cases in which to carry them through security, which kind of makes me wonder. We are being thrown in without getting a whole lot of backstory, and I'm not sure if I like that just yet.
Uh-oh.
We'll see, but we do have our orbital team, which is comprised of FBI and MI6, which, again, thought that was kind of interesting, and I'm hoping that comes a little bit more in the future with an explanation. We find out that they are there to see Michael Eklund's character, and I'm just going to call him Michael Eklund because we never actually got a name from him. And they're not just trying to question him. Apparently, he's a really wanted guy. But he gets his big briefcase full of cash, and that's a lot of cash, because if anybody's worked with money, you know, unless those are singles, that's a hell of a lot of money. And he's like, hey guys, by the way, I happened to find this on the black market. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So, hey, you want this? Give me more money and you can have it. And next thing we know, oh crap. Third guy down in the lobby is like, hey guys, you need to run because the cops are coming. We need to book it. They got up 14 stories pretty fast, mind you. And I know elevators move quick, but why is it when I'm waiting for one, it always moves fast? I mean, just side note.
Yes, absolutely.
Sorry, squirrel. All right, let's go back. The two guys managed to make it out. The bad guys, because we don't know who they are. And Michael Eklund's character is like, crap, the cops are here. What do I do? So he stashes the unsold item in a random, desk in the hallway. Is this normal?
No.
Is this no?
Well, he was hoping to come back and get it afterwards if he actually made it out in one piece.
Yeah, okay. They weren't going to.
Well, why not hide it? Why not hide it somewhere in a room that you could later check? Ask for that specific room, and then you could get it back. Why put it in something that somebody like a cleaning lady could, come across?
Well, he's probably thinking the same thing about the room.
That's true. Yeah.
I just thought it was weird having this table in the middle of the hallway that happens to have a drawer.
A lot of hotels do that. I've seen that.
Really?
Yeah.
Apparently, I've been staying at really nice hotels or something. All right, Hilton. I think you got to up your game. What the heck? I need a table with a drawer in a hall now. And be lucky if I get an ice machine. Anyway,
we'll keep the light on for you.
We happen to have a cleaning woman find the item because he had it in a plastic bag, and of course, the plastic bag's sticking out. It's like, all right, what's up with this? She pulls out the bag because he couldn't close the drawer because apparently he was freaked out. And again, how did he catch up with the other guys so quick? Okay, what? All right, that was pet peeve of mine, number 1. There's several for this episode. I'm just going to throw it out there.
Okay.
Cleaning woman finds it, drops the floating Dorito, because that's what it kind of looked like.
Metal Dorito.
Metal Dorito. Picks it up, even though it didn't exactly hit the floor. At that point, I would have been like, what is up with that?
Yeah.
And this is where pet peeve number 2, because I'm like, what happened? She grabs it, ends up going through 14 stories, and falls onto a table. Now.
That's gotta hurt.
Yeah. She doesn't make it. Spoiler alert.
Really?
But here's my thing. She bends down, she holds onto her cart, grabs a thing. You see her and the cart disappear through what looks like through the floor.
Right.
But when she falls, only she's there. The cart has disappeared completely. I don't know if you noticed that. What the heck? Don't show me both of them falling and disappearing and then only one reappear. That worked my nerves for some reason.
I didn't notice that. Huh.
Yep.
I went back twice because I'm like, hold on a second. there's a couple times that happened. But our orbital team finds that she didn't make it either. And all of a sudden we have a whole lot of people in hazmat suits coming with all these weird special pillars to collect it and put it in another special containment unit. It's like, okay, so obviously at this point we know this is not something brand new. This is something they've dealt with.
Yeah.
Right.
So the question is, do we trust these teammates? Because it seems like neither of them trust each other.
No.
And their bosses don't want them to talk to each other, but they're teammates. So it's like, what does this mean? Because I have to ask that question about everything I watch now.
Yeah, well, we know Finola has experience with this, but not with working with Brian.
Right.
And of course, Brian's got a damn cocky attitude about himself because he tells his boss, "Oh yeah, she's ready to marry me."
Fighting her love for me or something.
Yeah.
I figured that was just like, I didn't want a partner. And
Right.
obviously,
Yeah, I
blah,
did
blah,
too,
blah.
but it was a copy.
Or he was just being a smartass in general to his boss because he doesn't really like his boss. I mean, I figured it could be either one.
I kind of get the sense neither one of them wants to work with a partner on this.
Yeah, you're right. Oh,
Whether it's an international partner or someone from their same team, FBI or MI6, I kind of think they want to work their own cases. That's the sense I get.
I almost forgot. How did I forget this? Oh my gosh. So Michael Eklund's character was on the second balcony, and next thing we know, he is like on top of a car, like he jumped. But here's my question. Because those other guys disappeared and we have no idea where they went, because it looked like they went just through a secret wall or something.
Yeah.
We don't know what happened until the end with them. Was he pushed? And did anybody notice the briefcase? Was it there or not? Because I'm thinking, because what we know at the end, that those guys got to him, took the briefcase back and pushed him so he wouldn't talk instead of him just jumping, because why would he jump?
Right. And with the technology that we found out that they had later on, that makes a whole lot more sense.
Which I did not think about until the end, because that just kept bugging me. It's like, where was the briefcase?
Well, they didn't give us as clear of a shot. I mean, they showed him from inside the hotel looking out through the window, hitting the car. So they didn't give us as clear of a shot of him as they did with the cleaning lady in the banquet hall.
Right.
So because one of my first thoughts when I went back and was really mulling this was, well, maybe the technology. But then I thought, well, he took his extra one and put it in that drawer.
Right.
So that wouldn't have forced him. Like if he jumped off to try to save his own neck, and then that gave him too much force.
Right.
And that would make sense if he still had it with him, but he put it in that drawer that the cleaning lady found. So I think the two guys kind of blipping back in and pushing him makes a lot more sense.
Right.
Yeah.
And probably taking the money back.
Well, yeah.
I wonder if we're going to find that out, or if that's just something.
I think they would have said.
Think for yourself.
I think they would have said something. I mean, they showed the scene where they captured the metal Dorito. I think they would have shown, the money the briefcase being picked up.
Said.
Yeah.
And hey, guess what? It gets weirder.
No.
Yeah, it sure does. Because we move on to a boy in a car who tells his mom about a high wire act.
Hey, Steve, what do we always say about kids in these kind of shows? Creepy and they can't be trusted.
Exactly. Nothing good ever happens.
Nope.
So we see him pull out this little cymbal-banging monkey toy. And that's our second callback to Fringe. The first one being Michael Eklund himself, who played Milo.
Yep.
And we did see this toy in a much larger capacity on Fringe.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, the mom starts to cough, and we see blood gushing from her eye.
Lousy CGI, by the way.
Yeah, not the best.
Oh. Horrible.
I was like, what is happening, though?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because you don't see anything.
But with the kid looking so calm, I'm like, you little creeper.
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely had, I guess we could compare him to the Tooth Kid from Channel Zero.
No, nothing compares to the Tooth Child. That was like, whoa. But just like this kid just being like, that's happening. I'm like, oh my God, it's like from Pet Sematary. Like the original kid from Pet Sematary.
Yeah.
That's what I kept thinking of when I seen this. And I'm sorry, whoever plays the kid, but you're creeping me out.
Well, he had a very far away gaze to his eyes and wasn't smiling or anything. So, yeah, he was creeptastic.
Yeah, just the dead eyes.
And we see the car, slowing down and finally stops. And you go, how did that happen? She's dead. She's not driving the car.
I think the kid did that.
That would be something else. And it wouldn't have surprised me either.
Yeah.
And he gets out, opens the door, and just grabs her and kind of lets her fall to the ground. And off she floats.
Yeah. I'm like,
what the hell?
Yeah, like he's like, oh, this is normal. What the hell?
Yeah.
Is this some kind of weird new seizure? I mean, this kid's like not affected at all. And I don't mean like he's not floating, just like, meh, this is normal.
Oh, he's affected, all right.
Yeah.
A whole different thing, yeah.
Exactly.
And he just stands there and watches her. Still that straight, expressionless face.
Yeah. And calling her mom sure didn't make me believe that he felt anything for her.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, what little kid, if something happens to their parents, gets out and throws them out of the car, basically?
Bye.
Get down. I'm going to drive this thing now.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when he's telling her about the high wire act, and she's like, oh, that's dangerous. All of a sudden, the eyes come up and looks at her like in the rear view. I'm like, is this like that Twilight Zone? Like the kid wasn't happy because you didn't respond the way he wanted to, and so now something weird's going to happen?
Yep.
That's where the music comes in. It's perfect.
It's like, I was thinking of like the movie, the Twilight Zone movie with the first one with Dan Aykroyd. Hey, you want to see something really scary? Here you go.
Yeah, so this part was, it was creeptastic, but it really didn't make a lot of sense because we don't see a piece. Because he doesn't have one in his hand. I kept looking at that toy thinking, what's it? Is that somehow got a piece inside of it or something?
I was thinking that with like the metal.
Yeah.
Because we don't know anything at this point.
Nope.
And just all of a sudden, it's like the little symbols. I'm like, oh, it has something.
I thought, considering, the framework of the show, that he was kind of taken over by an alien or something. And
I wouldn't have been surprised.
Yeah, because he was so, monotone in his expressions, and his facial look was just frozen practically. And so I thought, well, that's not normal. I mean, kids can act any way they want, but that's not normal. And for what was happening, and he wasn't freaking out, or anything, I was like, he's possessed. Yeah. Gotta be. If I start seeing somebody bleeding from the eyes and then they drop dead and then they don't actually drop, they float.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm sitting there going, let me go play with my cymbal playing monkey toy. I'm going to be like, what the hell?
That's what any normal reaction would be.
Hello. So, well, we move on from that moment of bonding to a little more bonding, sort of. We see Brian and Finola on a jet, and they got all kinds of equipment there. And so she comes back and shows him information that she's garnered so far, and he's asleep, although he can tell that they're turning around, which I thought was kind of cool. He's got even the mask over, those masks you wear when you go to sleep, over his eyes, and yet he can tell, why are we turning around?
Right.
How hard was that plane banking for him?
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I was like, damn, why isn't he like falling off the couch or something? So, and he's kind of amazed that she's still working, and he tries to, well, good job and everything. So now they kind of do a little bit of sharing with one another. This kind of gives us some of our human backstory here to the two characters. He's saying that he's working with Orbital to contribute after having served in Afghanistan, and he wants the good guys to get this the alien technology first. So that's why he's working on this. And then Finola shares with him about her father. So this is where we hear more of her own personal backstory. Because what we've heard in the lead up to the show is that they both have stories, but she's got a really long family backstory that we're going to get into over time. So this was the first piece of it. And so
sounds familiar.
Yeah, doesn't it?
Olivia Dunham, maybe?
Yeah, just a little bit. Got some daddy issues. And Finola says her father was her inspiration, basically, to join. And she shares with him that he was the first astrophysicist to see pictures from the Hubble telescope of the wrecked spacecraft, which kind of tied me into the opening credits scene, because when they have all that debris coming in and we see that thing out in space smashed up, my thought was that was like one of our satellites.
Right.
And I was like, well, crap, that ain't it now, because here's what she's saying, the telescope had pictures of the wrecked spacecraft, and there was a huge debris cloud. And in the opening credits, that looked like the beginnings of a pretty big debris cloud coming out of that crash.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay. Well, that kind of, so A goes to B and B go, okay, I got it all. So the fact that he was able to see it, and then and she also mentions, with pieces falling to Earth, and at least Brian kind of gives her kind of some consoling words that at least he got to see that, what the Hubble telescope had before he died, which I thought was nice of him to do that, because
I guess it depends on how her father died.
Right.
That's the other piece we don't know yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we learned more about her father towards the end, but yeah. But yeah, so I mean, that's the whole thing. I mean, he didn't have to do it, and obviously there's tension here. I thought even though we kind of got thrust into this, and I get your pet peeve, I think they've kind of plopped us in the middle of something that's already started, which if you kind of look at Fringe, that kind of sort of almost did the same kind of thing that Fringe events had already been occurring.
Yep.
And this Fringe division that Broyles was given to lead was just created to look into all this stuff. So here, we're kind of plopped in the middle of where this orbital thingamajigger, this international thing, has been created, but, there's distrust. So obviously this is fairly new.
Yeah, I don't mind starting where stuff's already happened and we start piecing it together. It's just, I'm hoping we get a little bit more like, why MI6 and CIA?
I think they'll give us.
And, little pieces like that. It's like, I want them to give it to us without spoon feeding us.
Right.
So it's like, okay, that's hard. It's just the fact that they already have technology to collect this stuff. We know it's probably pretty far advanced.
Oh, yeah.
So it just should be interesting what we get from that.
And those little pillars they used in the banquet hall stopped it from floating. It took, it brought
it neutralized whatever it was radiating.
Yeah, so that's definitely, not something that they just happen to have lying around.
No, they knew that it would neutralize it, so they could collect it. So
I'll throw an unwarranted Doctor Who reference. They reversed the polarity of the anti-gravity state. So.
Hey, that might be what they actually tell us. You never know.
There you go. There's my throwback to Doctor Who. So then the last thing, as far as they're sharing, is Finola's kind of seeing there's more of a human interest story to this whole debris falling scenario. And she thinks that there might be actually a reason, which I thought was kind of odd. She phrases it that there's a reason for the debris finding Earth.
Right, because it was so far away when it exploded.
Yeah, and she's like, there's millions of planets and all these stars. And I'm like, well, the debris is going to fall whatever direction, because there's no gravity in space. So whatever direction, an impact will send something, it'll go that way. And, the debris is heading towards Earth. Because all these other things that hit that spacecraft was obviously going towards Earth anyway. At least it looked like it in the opening credits.
Right.
So, so I thought that was kind of, I don't know if that was intentional or that's just the way they wrote the line, but it seemed odd to me that she called it a reason for the debris finding Earth. I was like, and then she couches it as maybe it's a gift. Yeah, maybe.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and this is what's curious about this pairing is Brian is this military guy.
Yep.
So he's just get it and bag and tag it.
That's it. Yeah.
And Finola thinks there's a whole lot of a deeper meaning to this stuff coming down, and that, yes, it possibly could help humanity by actually finding this and putting it to good use. But as we saw in the opening, there's a whole lot of other people that might want to put it to nefarious uses.
Well,
initially, I was thinking Brian is kind of a jerk, like his attitude.
Absolutely.
And Finola is kind of naive. That's what I got for my first takes from these two.
Right.
I didn't get her as naive. I kind of got her as a little standoffish, as if to say, look, I'm from an official.
Smarter than you.
Well, maybe that, yeah. I think because he can kind of come off as pretty brusque, and so that kind of makes you think he's not as smart.
Right.
To compensate for smart, somebody will be kind of, gruff with you, kind of thing. And I think maybe she sees it, but I think she probably sees it as, look, MI6 is just as a viable organization as the FBI is.
Right.
So don't kind of count me out because I'm not from an American entity. MI6 is still, we're still in the fight kind of thing. And we're supposed to be equal partners. So I kind of really didn't see her as naive. I just see her as, at least what we've seen so far, having more of her father's influence in how she views the world. And I think Brian has something in his, because when we get to it later, when they interview the sister of the boy, I don't want to say too much just yet because we're going to come to it. When they interview her, he's got to step out of the room real quick.
Right.
When she shares her story with her mom. So I think there's some kind of parental thing going on with Brian that's going to come up later.
Right.
But I think she just kind of shows the more human side. And like you said, Steve, he's a military guy. He's just going there, get it done, bag and tag it. Two totally different ways of approach.
Yep.
So I like this scene. It actually kind of gave a little more humanity to the two of them without trying to be overly sappy and, well, I'm nice and you're mean, or you're mean and I'm not, it kind of had a little more of a nice feel to it. I thought it was pretty well written. I liked it, though.
Let's go on to see what's happening next.
Okay.
We have a farmer calling up, I don't know, does everybody have Orbital on speed dial? Because
yeah, they do.
Apparently something weird happens. Let's call them. Because
right next to Fred's Pizza.
Right. Farmer finds a woman floating in his field. Yeah, not exactly normal. She happens to be hooked on a partial barbed wire fence, and this is where my pet peeve number 2 comes in. Why do you cut things? Okay, you put on a glove to unhook the woman to find out what's going on, and then you don't even take the glove off right. Okay, if she's contaminated and could have something wrong with her, what the hell?
Yes.
Little things like this bother me.
Every time they...
Nobody scanned her.
In hazmat suits.
Nobody scanned her for radiation.
I thought somebody was, or they were using like their phone thing.
No, actually, Finona did get a reading
of
from
the area.
her.
Did she get it from the gal?
I think she got it from the gal too.
Oh, okay. All right, I thought it was just
a
the area.
level 2 instead of a level 10 or something.
But still, why are you touching her?
Right.
I don't think a latex glove's going to help you much.
Yeah, because that was one thing that Finona figured out was she shouldn't be pointing that way because that's not the way the wind was blowing.
The wind's blowing. And the other thing I wanted...
interesting.
Yeah, which I didn't suspect, but when they showed, the angle, I was like, oh, yeah. The other thing I noticed was, and they didn't really make a point of this visually, except when they went to the woman's house who wasn't responding to calls about her husband. Did you notice how cut off and barren that field looked?
Yes.
I was like, was that caused by something? Because they didn't show us that. They had that thing we saw we're going to get to in a minute that the body floats to, but there's nothing else around.
That's what I was wondering.
Like we saw at the woman's house when they went to her house to find out why aren't you responding to calls. So I thought that was that struck me because that was real, stark thing that kind of caught my eye. And then Finola noticing the wind blowing kind of took my attention away.
See,
it's in Kansas. So
don't be picking on Kansas.
Yeah, they're pretty flat.
There goes our Kansas listeners. Damn it.
Well, anyway, when Brian unhooks her in a very unscientific and keeping everything, uncontaminated kind of way, she does float away, and thankfully not too fast. They were able to follow her. She wasn't zipping down the road. And floats towards a weird little whirlwind of other bodies. It's like, what the hell?
Yes.
Is
and
this what's happening in Kansas? Everybody's dying and then flying into this weird little body tornado? Is this like Sharknado, only
Body-nado?
Yeah.
Body-nado?
Yeah, that's when I sent a message to Sean saying, holy shit.
It's like, what? But then I was freaking out. Go ahead.
If Ian Zierling and Tara Reid appeared in the corner, I'd have been like, off Never mind.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm out. But I kind of freaked out because we get the medical examiner, get all these bodies.
Like,
and I'm guessing they're weighting them down in the body bag because that would be awkward. Got body bag balloons, but whatever. The examiner's name is Sharon, and she's examining the body, and they don't have any pulse, but what just happened? Because I'm sitting here watching it, and all of a sudden the eyes are open, and they're looking around. I'm like, what the hell?
yeah.
Like, I was like, they're alive, but they're dead? What is this? How are they alive? And somehow they're degrading, though. So I was kind of freaked out and exhilarated by what this could mean. They're not quite zombies, but what are they?
They were she was approaching Walter Bishop era there.
Yes.
Like they're communicating, but they're working on a cellular level, but we don't know if they're aware or not, but they are deteriorating. I was like, I could see Walter saying that same kind of thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
We do get to see, because they tried to trace back everything, that the woman who was missing, that they had just found, was seen on a CCTV at a gas station.
Yep.
And they're able to see a picture of a boy. And this is where what you said, Terry, like maybe this is like an alien that took over the kid or something. I was like, oh, what is he doing? And I was hoping that it would be some weird thing that you can see on the CCTV image, like his eyes would flash or something.
Sure.
Yeah, I just wanted it to get super weird apparently real fast because
like They Live or
tornadoes aren't enough.
What do you like? They Live? You want to see like a skeleton face?
That would be awesome. And
I come here to chew gum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum.
But it got weird, right? Because we find out that the kid isn't even that lady's kid, but he was calling her mom. So it's like, what does this mean?
Yes. As we further this investigation onward, the wife of one of the dead men hasn't responded to calls to her home, so they go check it out, and guess what? They find her floating outside.
That's going to ruin the family reunion.
Okay,
Yeah.
I have a weird question.
Okay.
Because where you see her, like Brian turns his head and you see a bike. Why was the bike covered in snails?
Is that what it was covered with? I couldn't figure out what that was.
I'm looking at it going, because I paused and I'm like,
did you?
What?
I thought it was rocks. Was it snails? Seriously, was it snails?
I swear it was snails.
Okay.
And I was really confused because it's like, why would there be snails all over it?
Because they want to evolve into learning how to pedal a bike.
They want to ride a bike.
They
want to go faster.
Yeah. It's a step in evolution. Leave them alone. It's science.
Yep.
I didn't know they were. It looked to me like it were rocks or something, and I thought that
would be even weirder.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, as Brian wanders a little bit further into the forest there, which Kansas doesn't have many of.
I don't think we're in Kansas anymore.
Right. He finds a very large piece of debris.
What size of that thing?
And stares at it for a while and then calls in the reinforcement. Have them do their thing. So they go inside the house and they find the picture of the boy and his sister. Well, they happen to find out that the sister was sent to boarding school only 7 miles away. So they give her a call and she informs them that her brother died in a car accident 7 months ago.
Uh-oh.
Say what?
And he was cremated.
Oh, no.
What? Okay, now the weirdness is ramping up. Right up our alley, right?
Yeah.
Right. And we see the boy get into another woman's car. The whole process starts all over again.
Yep.
He calls her mom and tells her about a high wire act.
I honestly thought, like, when the sister said this, like, somehow this kid alien thing, whatever he was at this point, because I had no idea, was trying to get to her, because she was only 7 miles away. Like, he kept trying to take people over to get to the
Sister.
Oh.
And I was like, oh no, he's going to kill her too.
Oh,
like,
wow.
I didn't know what was happening.
I hadn't thought of that. That's pretty good, too.
Yep.
I like that.
Because, like, oh, you left me because you're so close, or, you know, that it was like all these weird things going through my head. And
But I
why
mean,
is the same story keep coming up with the high wire? And I'm like,
But he's got the women saying that, responding to them like he's their son. Like the first woman, Mom, yeah, honey. And then this woman, he goes, Mom, and she goes, same thing, yeah, or yeah, honey, or whatever. Like they're responding to him as though he is their son.
Right.
So a little bit of kind of brainwashing was going on as well. So that kind of, at that point, still reinforced my thing. This kid's taken over by an alien.
Right. He was like,
yeah,
mind melting them or something.
I know.
And that's why their eyes were bleeding.
But I like your idea of he was looking for the sister. I hadn't thought of that. That's pretty good. I like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And
so
we do get to see how both of the agents respond in this situation. Like you said earlier, the poor girl is just totally upset. She's not over her grief because, of course, she tells them that, yeah, her and her mom just fought all the time and her mom just couldn't move on. And so they all decided the best thing to do was for her to get out of the house.
Mm-hmm.
And you see Brian basically bail on Finola as he can't handle it. And it's like, you're a big bad military guy. What's going on here? And, because then we find out that, yeah, Finola's lost both her mom and her dad.
Yep.
And again, this was another reason that I was thinking the little boy was trying to get to her.
Right.
Yep. And that's where I think that we're going to find out more about Brian's backstory with a mom, since she was talking about her mom or both of his parents or something, because later he tells her, well, he was sorry, he shouldn't have bailed, but he had to get out of that room real fast.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what to say, then you kind of look at your partner.
Right.
And give your partner a look, and then your partner takes over the questioning, and you either kind of sit there, you kind of walk around the room and look at the knickknacks and, maybe get a sense of something else while listening to the conversation. I mean, there's things you do. You don't just... So
but
that's why
he did at least say, excuse me a moment, but when you see him in the hallway, he has like tears in his eyes.
Yeah, his eyes are all welled up.
Whoa, what is this? I was not expecting that.
Me neither. I thought she had said something that tipped him off to go find out something else.
Right.
And he was going to make a call, or he was going to do something, or look at that picture that he saw the two of them on the wall. So, So, we're talking about different responses. There were different responses to the wreckage. Finola goes out to the wreckage again, and while she's there, she sees visions of her dead mother.
Yeah, it wasn't until she actually reached up towards it, because there's a bunch of stuff just kind of hanging over this.
Like dust or grass or whatever.
Yeah, well, this was part of a dandelion.
Dandelion, yep.
And she just grabs it and...
Why does she just touch it?
Yeah.
What is wrong with you? That's why I was thinking, you're naive. You're like, big, giant piece of debris that causes a bunch of crap to happen. But you know what? I think I'm going to touch this. And I had the look on my face like, what is wrong with you?
That kind of almost reminded me of the Doctor Who episode. It was a Christmas one where there was the current then and the first Doctor, and all the snow had stopped, and he flicks one of the snowflakes. It goes away and it comes right back to where it was.
Right.
So that kind of made me think. But I see what you mean now about the naive part. Yeah, I wouldn't, I'd be like trying to catch something inside a container so you don't touch it.
Right.
But don't touch something that's floating there.
Yeah. Don't possibly get yourself sucked into, this weird field of like floating
dead bodies. Not quite dead.
Totally weird. And so she sees her mom. She's obviously very emotional about that. When we saw them earlier, when Brian first came upon it, and then he kind of puts his hand up and tells her to, hang on a second, he backs away from it. She gets visions of her dead mom, and she's very emotional. We later hear them talking about Isla telling them that she actually said something to her mom about if you hadn't taken Kieran out to get candy, you wouldn't have had the accident.
Right.
So obviously that she was saying that they fought a lot, so just the emotions you could tell were just welling over. And certainly you could see in her face. I thought this gal that played the sister was phenomenal, by the way. I said to Steve, I thought our two main characters were a little flat, emotion-wise. wise, but I thought this girl was spot on, and you could see that character after saying something like that while she's at boarding school was like, I really shouldn't have said that.
Right.
So damn, why did I say that? But she seems self-aware enough that it was because of the emotion and because the mom couldn't get past it.
Right.
Which I kind of thought a kid would say that because 7 months, you're not going to be fully over it anyway.
Oh, hell no.
So, but then later Finola tells Brian about her vision of her mother. This is after he's bailed on the interview with Isla. And she tells her that she was at the wreckage site, saw a vision of her mom. And then she even says, she describes this, it felt my longing.
Right.
For my mom.
I got a quick question for you two. Since Brian was the first one that seen that big one and big piece of the debris and stopped Finola from coming over at first, and everything that we've seen after that, like when Isla was talking and how he reacted, do you think that he seen something? Like he was close enough to see something, and maybe what Isla said kind of freaked him out now that we know that the debris caused even Finola to see something that she was longing for?
Wouldn't surprise me a bit.
Would make sense.
Or do you think my tinfoil hat has too much tinfoil?
No, that would make That's why I'm saying I think there's more to Brian's family backstory that's going to come out later. They just chose to show Finola's first.
Right.
Okay.
To kind of show some of her family's hand, if you will, first.
Or it may have, not necessarily his family. It could be a
wife.
Well, military.
Yeah.
Military person.
He could have been in charge of a group of men and they all got killed.
Yep.
Wow,
there's
we're
all
really
kinds
going
of ways.
deep in stuff, and
Well, and I'm thinking if she's describing it as it felt my longing, then maybe part of his giving back and serving his country, maybe this is also a sense of atonement, because kind of piggybacking on what Steve said, maybe he did something as a mistake out in the field in Afghanistan that got another one or several of his fellow men killed.
Right.
And he's carrying that, and he's longing to be able to take that mistake back. So maybe that could be his backstory. It could be guys that he served with. And maybe it was just in general seeing his fellow guys dying in battle, or it might have been something that he did wrong. Something that has a large emotional impact. Certainly she's not over her mother or father's death yet.
No.
Finola. She's not.
She's lost her entire family. Her mom, her dad, and her brother.
Yep. So all of those wounds are still pretty fresh for her. Brian's may have been further back time-wise, but it might have been something that he's buried further inside of him.
Yeah.
So maybe,
debris pulled it out.
Yeah.
Pulled it back to the surface.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Everybody listening, we don't have a clue. This is all what if.
Yeah, what if? You got some ideas, let us know. So then as they're outside, they get ready to leave the house. They kind of start piecing together. I love this part because they were really thinking together as one. This was kind of like an Olivia Peter moment. This was really cool. They were piecing together about the mother's joy at seeing her son again, because they're saying that she longed for her son, and apparently this chunk of debris picked up on that.
Yep.
And all of a sudden, there he is. He appears. And so she kind of gets sucked into, oh my God, he's here. And now she's one of the people bleeding and, floating because of that. And so they start saying that maybe that's, that level of grief is so intense that it's kind of, the debris is kind of playing this thing out with other women on a loop. That's not their wording, but that's my wording.
Right.
So, yeah. So then we hear kind of something else to feed into that the medical examiner, Sharon, I kind of feel I'm going to like Sharon. She's kind of like, Bones McCoy, come on now. And she starts to hear a name in her head being repeated. Calls up Brian, tells him the name. He says the name out loud in front of Finola, and she goes, that's my mother's name.
Dun, dun, dun.
Why are they saying that? Are they connected to her? Like in ways that we know?
Well, if not, I think that might have started the connection when she walked to the site and saw her mother, visions of her dead mother.
Right.
I think that connection has started. Ooh, yeah.
Things that make you go,
And let's talk about that wreckage site, shall we?
Okay.
We see everybody, because, all hands on deck.
Yeah.
They are trying to collect this very large piece of debris. I'm guessing they have really big pillars to use to put around it now.
Yeah.
But we have an agent who turns. Now, I don't know if it was just me. When he turns and he sees somebody, I could have sworn at first he was looking at himself. And it wasn't until he looks again that he sees the two buyers from earlier, or at least one of the two buyers. I don't remember if he noticed both now.
I didn't see the second one off. Yeah.
But I swear when he first looks and we see it, I thought it was supposed to be like him looking back at himself.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my God, what is the debris doing to him?
Yeah.
I thought it was really weird. So that part was maybe just me going, you could have went really freaky here, but and then we see them both swallow something and bam, they're transported away. It's like, what just happened?
Yeah. Holy crap.
It's like, all right, mutants? Are we in the Marvel universe? What's going on?
I hope they didn't have to swallow a metal Dorito, because that would really hurt.
Yeah.
I can't swallow pills without drinking a bunch of water with it, so I'm just like, oh, what did they just do? But we see the one dude who had tattoos on his fingers, which just made me think about the magicians and travelers. Whole nother thing.
Right.
And the other one was there somewhere, right? But the tattoo guy is calling his name, and you just hear, help me, and he turns, and you just see him pull out a gun and fire, because the other dude didn't make it. He was in the cement pillar underneath the bridge. Oh! It's like, what the...
Well.
Is that like Nightcrawler? He had to see where he was going, and this dude totally screwed it up, because that was pretty messed up. That's all I kept thinking, going, how are you even talking? Ow, pain.
That was a throwback to me to Fringe.
Oh, absolutely.
There was one episode where they were able to manipulate matter so they could walk through walls. And when they're walking back through walls after robbing a bank or something, that the other cohorts split and this one guy gets stuck in the wall. But the thing that kind of I found odd was, which threw me off visually, was that this guy who kind of melded into this cement pillar, he was higher up off the ground a little bit. Because when the guy shot him, I guess to put him out of his pain, because he knew there was no way to save him at that point, he aimed up. And I was like, what? That was like another creature or something coming after him? And then you see him in the pillar, but he's elevated.
Yeah, he's way up high.
So I don't know if he was when he swallowed that thing, he jumped,
Maybe he was in the tree watching or something.
Yeah, it was like, and that's the only thing, because I only remember seeing one of them at first when the agent turns around to look. I didn't see both of them right away. I saw them both when they blipped out.
Right.
But, so it might have been he was up in a tree. I hadn't thought of that, yeah. But that was bizarre.
I just think their technology isn't quite as perfected as they were hoping it was, because having a teleporter like that would be big advantage in this race to collect pieces, but you can't count on it.
Not that it necessarily means anything, but did you notice that especially when they were first making the deal at the opening of the episode, at least the one of them, I think they kind of had British accents.
Yeah.
So maybe, that might have been why MI6 got included with the FBI for this international force, because maybe something got started over in England.
Yeah.
That maybe the FBI knows about or maybe doesn't yet. One or the other, we don't know, but maybe that's how MI6 got thrown in this. Because I thought MI6 was kind of an odd choice.
Right.
I would have figured Scotland Yard, which is kind of their equivalent of FBI. But maybe because if that accent tells us anything, and how they have this technology and they seem to be just regular human beings, and we don't think that they're like a reapparition of a dead kid.
Right.
They seem to be real, alive adult men. That how did they get their hands on it? So weird. I want that stuff to teleport them.
Harry Vanderspiegel.
I will say a pet peeve, which actually comes into play a little bit further in the episode, but it has to do with the guy in the pillar, because that's a really big pillar, right? That's a bridge support.
Yeah.
And later we see that a big chunk of it, not just him, is cut out of the bridge support. And I'm like, what? How are you just going to cut out a bridge support like that? And so, that was just a pet peeve. Rando, I know. But these little things irk me. I need explanation. But let's go back to Brian calling his boss, who just seems like, meh, whatever. Like, when I first see this boss, I'm thinking he is totally doing shit that he's not supposed to.
Yes, thank you.
And Brian is going to be caught up in it because he doesn't know that the boss is doing stuff he's not supposed to.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And just with the, I'll give you just enough information, but hold back a whole lot and make you suspect your partner. That, like, this is, I'm not feeling his boss.
Yeah, like the whole thing. Yeah, like the body in the pillar. He was like, okay, I'll have the body transported here, as if to say it's an imposition.
Right.
Yeah, bizarre.
I don't like him. But anyway, we have our agents, Fanola and Brian, going to the gas station that it seems that everybody who has floated away has started to end up at.
Yeah.
Because it's close to the accident scene where we find out that Kieran and his mom, or Kieran had passed and his dad, I apologize. Or no, it was the mom. Rewind.
Yep.
Mom didn't die. She just was there with him getting hit. Got it. Rewind.
Hello. Take two.
Yeah. Blah, blah, blah. But anyway, we see a woman inside looking for a sour and sweet candy. What could that be? But anyway, Ryan's stopping her and trying to talk to her. She's like, no, I have to get to my son, and like freaking out, and her eyes start to bleed. But outside, we see Fanola talking to Kieran, who was playing with that little monkey.
Yep.
And I'm like,
and you go, oh no.
Ah,
Yeah,
it's the
here we
monkey.
go.
Yeah, just like you said earlier.
Not the monkey.
That I just was freaking out because they just made it look like they were connected.
Right.
Yeah.
Damn you.
Yeah.
Now I will fear the little
Nice
symbol monkey.
decoy.
And Fanola is trying to be like, you don't belong here. And Kieran's like, I'm wanted here.
Oh, shit.
Because that couldn't sound creepier.
No.
That was creepy.
Kudos to the kid for being so
Oh,
good
yeah.
at being super creepy.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
But
yeah.
when you see Fanola looking kind of scared and sad at the same time,
Right.
and then flip back to the woman who's like freaking out and her eyes are bleeding, and flip back to Fanola, and I'm like, uh-oh, what's going on? This isn't good. And then Fanola touches his hand, and flip back to the woman who is suddenly laying on the floor, but not because she's floating.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Brian immediately is like, shit. And he turns around and looks, and there goes the car.
He's gone.
What is happening? That's what we skipped the candy part.
Yeah. He didn't get his sweet and sour candy, so
No.
That's why he
Manola's in
split.
deep trouble.
Well, as soon as you start playing with, well, you always get in trouble playing with the monkey, but as soon as he started playing with that monkey while she walks up and starts talking to him, I'm like, oh, God.
Yeah.
And when Brian runs out of the store section of the gas station and she and the car are gone, I was like,
Gone.
yep. I imagine
It's trying to like divert your attention here and there, and I'm like, it's the monkey. No, wait, it's the kid. No, wait, it's this.
I think they could have broken this cycle if they just let it go on long enough to where the next woman comes to the gas station, goes in, I'm looking for this sweet and sour. Well, we're all out.
Yeah.
And she had to go back outside and tell Kieran, I'm all out. And he would have been like, that would have screwed up the loop.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a hot seller now, so they're going to keep it in stock.
I guess, yeah.
Well, Brian shows he has some brains as he figures out the connection. So he gets the daughter brought to where all the bodies are, including her mom.
This was genius.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he reassures her that none of them are in pain, but you've got to reach out to your mom because we believe her grief is what is causing all this to happen.
Yep.
And she tries for a good couple minutes. No reaction from mom. Ryan encourages her, telling her she has to do it. Otherwise, his partner's going to be another one of their floating bodies.
I love the line. Yeah, I love the line where she says, can she hear me? And he goes, she has to.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that line. That was beautiful.
Not like, putting any pressure on the kid.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
This poor girl.
Yeah, teen girl from boarding school. And it's like, hi, here you're going to save, like, all these people.
Yeah, you've already been through hell, and let's go through it one more time. But she eventually succeeds, and they all wake up and go plop. Beds.
At least they come down.
Yes. And we cut to the site of the accident, and we see only Finola as Karen has disappeared along with the whirlwind.
Yep. Thank goodness.
So, yeah, that was a very intense scene. I mean, this young girl just really has some acting chops because she really brought it this episode.
Oh, yeah.
Big kudos to her.
She's older than the girl was in the episode I'm going to talk about, but there was an episode in Fringe where they had a young gal, blonde-haired girl, I think she's a singer now, played young Olivia when they nicknamed her Olive.
Right.
And she was being abused by her dad, and she runs into Walter's office. I won't give the whole thing away because it's a complicated scene, but she runs into Walter's office, a younger Walter, because it's back in time. And that girl was just, could you please help me? Could you get him to stop? And the emotion that she showed.
Right.
I mean, she was younger at that age than this girl is in this show. I think the actress is in her teens or something. But, I mean, I kind of compared the two as being very similar. A young actress who just acted the daylights out of her scenes. And this girl in Debris, like I said, I thought the two main characters were flat. She brought it. And you could see this whole scene with her mom, and when she brings her back and everybody else comes back, that her sharing all of what she was telling her, and even her mom started to tear up
right
before she came out of it. You could almost tell that for Isla, that was a cathartic moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
That everything that had been building up for 7 months, even saying to her mom, and even when they had her muted and you could just see her mouth, what she was saying, you couldn't hear her, like, I need you, Mom, and all this stuff. It was like, wow.
And you got to give it kudos to Brian for piecing this all together so quickly.
Yeah. I'd have been still fumbling around with the lady inside the store.
Yeah, trying to make sure she doesn't float off.
I'd be talking to
off the walls. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, don't mind her head.
Keep her in here. I need to.
Can you
make
put
sure
her in your cooler, please?
Yeah.
Space.
Yeah, make sure she doesn't bump up against the Slurpee machine. You'll be all right. So,
now I want a Slurpee. Thanks, Tim.
Yeah.
I got to go float down the road. Hold on.
At least you can have one. So, yeah, I mean, I still would have been futzing around in the store and talking to the cashier and being like, whoa, what's that? And it's like, you didn't see what you saw. I wanted him to have one of the Men in Black things, neuralizer. That would have been beautiful. So we go to the last section of the episode here, and Finola's getting her final, check out, make sure she's physically okay, and they want to talk to the mom, and Brian says he should do it. And to me, he looked like he was still welled up in his eyes. I don't know if that was just the way the angle they shot him at, but it looked like he still had a little bit of tears in his eyes. And she's like, no, I've actually gone through this. Right. So now I need to talk to Isla's mom and, kind of debrief them and, do all that stuff, which I was like, yeah, that makes sense. So Brian gives his boss, Mr. Enthusiasm, a call. And broils he's not. And so the boss tells Brian that they've identified the body that was in the cement pillar, and he is a former British national, former member of the SAS. So they got the one hand was sticking out of the pillar, so I guess they got fingerprints.
Right.
Yeah, which to me added to the creep factor. Like the body at the torso sticking out was bad enough, but just those fingers sticking out, I was like, ugh. So yeah, he's former British national, former SAS. And then he adds that the two buyers that were in the beginning of the episode were traveling with Finola's father. Yeah, Finola's dad.
Wait a second. Didn't you say he was dead?
That's what I thought.
Shortly after her mom died because he couldn't deal with it.
That's right. So what the heck is all this stuff? So he's got it up on the screen. He says, I'm looking at him right now at, at the airport? The camera shot him. Yeah. So they had a camera at the airport, and he had him right there on the screen. Said he was using an alias on his passport. Another throwback to Fringe, Alistair Peck.
Yes.
Which goes back to the awesome Peter Weller episode where we got the white tulip from.
Definitely shout out to the Fringies.
I saw that. I was like, oh, yes. That was one of my favorite episodes on Fringe.
Yes.
And so then he tells Brian, because Brian's like, wait a minute. And he's like, I see him on the screen right here. And so he can hear in his voice. And he tells Brian, basically, don't tell Finola, keep her out of it. And Brian...
look happy, at least.
No. He was like, basically wanted to say, I can't keep this from her. And he's saying, yeah, you keep it from her. And I was like, oh, that doesn't sound too good.
No.
But at
this guy
point,
definitely is.
I was going to say, with Brian looking really concerned at that moment, that made me think he was a little less of a jerk.
Yeah.
So
True.
I'm like, okay, maybe I'll like you. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. What he did in the last 10 minutes of the episode, he kind of made up for being the jerk in the first 10 minutes, because he saves Finola, and now he's questioning his boss as to whether to tell Finola her dad is actually alive. Or is he?
Or is he?
That's what I was wondering. It's like,
See, that's what I'm thinking. Like, if he's traveling with those two guys, then he's not some apparition like Kieran was. At least I don't think so.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so either. But it still could have something to do with debris.
The pieces they're carrying. You never know.
Yes.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, even Brian earlier in the episode said, so what is it? Are we saying now that they resurrected the kid and added meat to his bones?
Right, yes.
Because he's like trying to get a handle on this, and Finola's like, no,
he
not
was
that.
cremated. Oh, that's even worse.
Yeah. That would be like the old Batman TV series episode when they had all the people from the United Nations into powder and they had to rehydrate them to bring them back.
Oh my God.
There's a throwback. So yeah, Mr. Enthusiasm, he gets off the phone, and then all of a sudden we see him riding on a little scooter. He's inside some big hangar, and where he ends up is which is where a bunch of team members are working to apparently reassemble at least a piece of, if not the entirety, of the alien spacecraft.
Whoa, what?
Kind of like they do when airplanes crash. They try to get all the pieces and reassemble it in a hangar.
Right.
Except when they pull back, you see there's at least 3 separate pieces all floating.
I know. Well, it looked like that one piece they were trying to put it back in or something to me.
Yeah, like it's a puzzle. They're like, oh, I wonder if this is here.
Yeah.
Do you just kind of like keep putting it all over to see if it fits?
Yeah.
That's probably what they're doing, yeah.
So there was the part when they were in their little medical trailer or whatever. That was a huge... This is where I had to pause.
Uh-oh.
And I had to call my husband in because I'm like, what is this? Now, first of all, and because I was at the freaking doctor today, I know this. They were taking the blood pressure in the wrong arm. And for some reason, I'm like, what the hell is that? I don't know why that bothered me. But her gun. Finola had her gun. I literally paused this and I called my husband in to look at this. And yeah, I'm that weird person right now. Because I'm like, what is this shit? I'm like, why does she have her gun like this? And he's looking at it going, that's not right. He goes, if it's a cross draw, it would be a different type of holster, which would be slightly angled, which isn't normal. But he's going, that's not a right holster for a cross draw. And if she's right-handed, because you turn and you see Brian have his in a normal position, it's not an inner pants holster. I don't know why this kind of thing got under my skin.
The hell is wrong with you?
I don't know what's wrong with me, but seriously. If somebody knows more about this, I would like to know.
First off, I didn't know there was a correct arm for blood pressure. I've had mine checked on both arms.
They will check it in the left arm if they're not getting a good reading in your right, but the right arm is the one that they almost always check it on because
I've never seen that. Maybe
more direct.
I don't know. Maybe out Midwest they do, but here they. Oh, you got two arms. We'll flip a coin. Which one we're going to do?
They do that when they draw blood, but
yeah. And as far as the holster, maybe that's just a British way of doing it. Maybe that's a British type of holster.
They're opposite-handed.
It could be.
If she was left-handed, I totally see it, but it's a cross draw, and it's a straight up and down, so that wouldn't even make sense as a cross draw.
I mean, if you're on the southern hemisphere, for example. No, I'm serious.
I told you this didn't make sense, why it irritated me.
If you're in the southern hemisphere, you go to the bathroom, you turn on the water, you brush your teeth. When you get done, when you shut off the water goes down the drain the opposite direction that it does here in the northern hemisphere. It's true.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, so maybe because it's a different country, or maybe the other side of the Atlantic, or maybe because she's got 11 toes instead of 10. Who knows? Maybe that's the kind of holster that they use. I don't know. Maybe she's got a nervous twitch or something.
I said it didn't make sense.
Well, damn it, girl.
The hell out of me.
Now you got me all upset.
All right. We need all our UK listeners
Yes, please.
out there to please
Who've gotten in
send us some
trouble.
feedback
Who've gotten in
explaining
trouble
the
with the
holsters in
police.
the UK and whether they're similar to the ones we use in the US.
Who either are in the police service, who has someone they know in the police service, or they've been arrested and they've seen this. Anybody.
Traditionally, in the U.S., police don't normally wear it that way,
Right.
even as a cross draw. So
I know you're talking about the different kinds of holsters, cross draws and all that. I'm just saying that maybe that's just a British type of a thing for agents that are not like regular. Well, regular police typically don't carry weapons that often, but maybe for an MI6 person, maybe that's how they do it in England. I don't know. So yeah, if anybody's listening who knows,
please let me know.
Yeah,
Yes.
Please.
Because Sean's not pretty when she's upset. She starts going for Slurpees and starts pouring them over her head instead of drinking them. It's not a pretty sight, folks.
I eat raw cookie dough.
Raw cookie dough. You gotta
Bring me back from the edge, people. Bring me back.
Save her and save us, please.
Well, you know how we feel about this episode. And we want to know how you feel about it.
Yeah.
Please help Sean get over her issues. Shoot us an email at contactus@fangirlzone.com because we'd love to hear from you. And while you're at it, please rate and review us on your podcast platform of choice, as good ratings and reviews help other fans of the show find us. Tell your friends about this show, and we do hope you're enjoying the podcast. So for this episode of Falling Pieces, I'm Steve.
I'm Sean Fangirl S.
And I'm Terry without any issues.